This is always the hardest part.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah, just waiting. All right, we are live now, so let me get us started. So, good evening to everyone. Eccentric Artists is very happy to announce that we're officially back this month with our featured artist. So, welcome to session 1 of our 6th edition featured artist Q&As. My name is Samantha Rodriguez, and I'm the host for tonight. If this is your first time joining us, here's a little breakdown of the live stream for tonight. For the first 40 minutes, I'll be asking our featured artists here a variety of questions. Then we'll transition over to audience questions. So if you have a question you'd like to ask either of these artists, feel free to enter them into the chat at any time, and our team behind the scenes will be sure to send them to me, and then we can ask our guests. If you're joining us on AirMeet, there is a function where you can raise your hand and you can hop in here and be seen and ask our artists a question if you'd like. So, those are all options. Let's get ready for a super cool Q&A. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guests for tonight. So, we have Deborah Richards, who is a screenwriter, director, editor, cinematographer, and VFX artist who has won 4 Southwest Regional Student Emmy Awards for her short Boy Meets Girl. In film school, she opened 1905 Film Studios, which hosted many projects such as music videos by Rick Ross and Snoop Dogg and her own passion projects. Her short, Dark Lights, is enjoying a successful international film festival run, having already played in 30 festivals. It is part of a feature anthology called The United States of Horror, narrated by Doug Bradley, who plays Pinhead in Hellraiser. Currently, Deborah is prepping for her first feature film, Move Me No Mountain. So, Deborah, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Of course. And our other artist for today is Heather Aradas. She is an independent film director and editor. She graduated from UNLV with a bachelor's degree in film. You'll find most of her directorial work to be very dark with a dash of glitter and a whimsical approach. When she's not making weird films with her favorite people, she is probably editing the morning light away on projects that range anywhere from music festivals, corporate interviews, commercials, and more. So, Heather, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, on behalf of the board, we'd like to once again thank you both for being here. And before we jump into questions, please sit back and enjoy a short video showcasing the work of our featured artists, and a huge thank you to Carlin Musney for editing this video for us.
These are our new Christmas products. Veronica came up with the line Christmas Cleanser, Mistletoe. Always make them feel ugly so they buy more stuff. If we ever do make it to the moon one day, I bet we could still see your pores from up there. They are huge! Try our pore perfector?
All right.
Super cool.
And super cool. As everyone can see, fantastic work from both of these super talented women. I'd like to just start with some general questions so we can kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. So this question's for both of you. When did your interest in film first start?
Oh wow. For me, I'll jump in. For me, it was like in the late '70s. Star Wars and um, had a really big impact on me as a kid, and also the Muppets. I wanted to be a Muppeteer, and so I'd make my own Muppets. And I got a video camera in like 1979, and I would film my own like versions of the Muppet Show, and I build all the little props and things, and yeah, I think I had a book of the Muppets, and all the pictures that were stills from the Muppet movie just like fascinated me so much, like all the miniature, like the band with the miniature amps and the miniature cables and everything. And so I wanted to build all that and film it and make it. So it was the Muppets.
Very cool.
That's awesome. For me, yeah, probably the same kind of like when I was younger. My parents, they had like this like old like VHS camera. And so oftentimes me and my best friend and my sister, we would just like reenact like skits from like Mad TV and stuff like that, which was kind of strange because we were only like 7 years old. So probably wasn't like appropriate. But yeah, that's kind of like what kind of got me into like seeing how you can like film something and like, make a little story out of it.
It's funny you say reenact scenes from stuff you saw, because I did the same thing. And I think when I was maybe 13 or so, a friend and I tried reenacting a truck blowing up from Indiana Jones. And so we got a toy car, set up the camera, and then we put some gasoline on it, and we lit it. And we're filming it, and it's just burning. It didn't actually blow up, right? So my friend says, pour some more gasoline on it. So I literally pour some gasoline, and the fire goes boom, straight up the gasoline thing into the tank. I throw the tank. It lands on the garden shed. The garden shed goes up in flames. His grandmother comes out with a little bowl of water, and she's trying to spritz it. And I got in a lot of trouble.
That's amazing.
All in the name of movie magic, I guess. Huh?
Okay.
That's really interesting that both of you had an interest for film at such a young age. I want to ask you, since you did start so young and you were using like cameras and props and stuff that you made yourself or that you had at home, do you think that, so there's so much accessibility to film nowadays, especially when you can just pull out your phone. Do you think that film school is necessary for aspiring filmmakers?
I have really strong thoughts on this. I'd love to hear your opinion.
Me first? Okay. I honestly think that it's both. I think it's necessary and unnecessary. I think like what film school can teach you is it teaches you a lot about working with other people and teamwork versus I feel like if you don't go when you're younger, you kind of like start a project and you're like, oh, this is my project, and you do a lot of the things yourself. So I feel like film school did teach me how to be more collaborative. But again, I think it's all about relationships, really. So I think it's, however it is that you get into it, as long as, you're able to build relationships. I think that's the most important, because that's what film school essentially did for me, is it just, I like met people that I, like ended up like working with later on and stuff like that. But, do you need to graduate? I don't really think, it's not necessary, but I probably shouldn't say that, but, that is kind of how I feel.
I'm personally a huge fan of film school. I think you learn vernacular, you get access to equipment that you might not otherwise have access to, because sometimes professional equipment is quite a lot more expensive than prosumer or consumer equipment. And then like Heather was saying, you know, your film school buddies of today are your crew of tomorrow. And I think there's another really important part of film school. It's really easy to say, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a director, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and never actually get around to doing it. But when you're in film school, you have deadlines, and you know you have projects in bite sizes that teaches you all the foundations you put together. And by having a deadline, you actually get out there and do it. And by getting out there and doing it, you learn. So I'm a huge fan of film school. I think there's a wealth of information out there, but it's really hard to sift through what is relevant, what is current, what is correct. And film school tends to be, you know, your tutors and stuff tend to be industry professionals, so you're getting information straight from the horse's mouth. So I would highly recommend. And as someone who's always in a position of employing people, people sometimes ask me, what would you rather have, someone that has experience or education? And my answer is both. You know, if you have experience in education, that's unbeatable. But if there's something that has to split the line between the two, it would be passion.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So, what has been one of the biggest challenges for each of you that you've faced during your film career so far?
Go for it, Heather.
Okay, the biggest challenge, honestly, is probably myself. Just because it's very easy, you know, to get into your head and like doubt yourself. And like fear oftentimes is what stops you from doing what it is that you really want to do, you know, because you're afraid, you know, oh, are people going to like this? Are they going to think I'm weird? You know, but it's like, I am weird, and you know, it's good to embrace that. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge definitely is, you know, myself, and I try to overcome that, you know, every day.
For me, I'm not sure if this has been the biggest challenge in my career overall, but certainly this year, and it's been very fresh in my mind, so I'm going to reference this. In 3 weeks' time, I'm shooting my first feature film, and the biggest challenge was raising the money, because it's a ultra low budget film. It's $100,000, but raising $100,000 was very, very difficult, and extremely difficult, like extremely difficult. Like, and you go through a lot of no's, and to get to the yeses, and those no's can be kind of soul crushing. And as shocking as it sounds, I had quite a lot of people in the last 6 months. When I say quite a lot, maybe like half a dozen people, industry professionals, telling me why this won't work, and why I won't be able to raise the money, and why this is not a good idea, and why I shouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, why are you saying this? Why are you saying this? Are you saying this because you weren't able to do it, or you weren't able to achieve your dreams, or why are you putting me down? And I don't understand that. So I've raised the money, I'm making my film. People will like it or not like it, and that's up to them. But all these doubters and haters that kind of creep out the woodwork, it's strange. It's weird to me. I mean, there are way more positive people around me than negative, but it's the negative ones that kind of stab you in the heart and leave you thinking, why?
Yeah, definitely. So Debbie, can I ask you to talk a little bit more about your feature? And aside from the raising the money, can you just tell me about what it's about and how you came up with the idea and everything like that?
I'm not really sure how I came up with the idea, because I just woke up one morning and I had it. I literally woke up one morning in February and I had the whole thing in my head. I mean, there was lots of gaps. There's always gaps, but I mean,
Right.
the core of the idea and the theme and the story and the characters, I just literally and that's something that I've always been blessed with creativity. I'm not quite sure how it works or where it comes from, and I've always been worried that it's going to run out at some point, and it never really does. So yeah, I just woke up with the idea. It's called Move Me No Mountain. It's a thriller set present day. It's about a real estate agent in Las Vegas who can't get over the crushing guilt of her daughter's death. So she decides to voluntarily walk out of society and become homeless on the streets of Sin City, Las Vegas.
Wow. That's
Sounds
super
amazing.
interesting.
And so we shoot in 3 weeks' time. It's a 21-day shoot. It's my first feature film as a writer-director. I'm pretty nervous, very excited. There's a lot of moving pieces. Let's see, what else can I tell you about it? 10% of the movie of the movie's proceeds are going to 4 local charities to help those most at risk in Las Vegas. We have distribution in place with Mutiny Pictures, and I won a scholarship to Sundance Collab to workshop this through their 9-week directorial program. So this is a Sundance workshop film. And it's also part of the Lucky 7 Challenge. I won some seed money at the beginning of the year from Jeremy Settles and Ben Stover as one of the lucky recipients of the Lucky 7, and they picked 6 other filmmakers as well. And they're all making films this year, and I think we're all going to debut them on January 8th at the Galaxy Plus in the Boulevard Mall in Vegas.
Oh, wow. That's
Wow,
awesome.
congratulations, by the way. That's, that's amazing. That's so hard to do. It's just like actually make a movie. Like,
yeah, I know, right? It's so tough. It's I have a long list of things to do each day, and I wake up in the morning in a total panic. And by the end of the day, I feel pretty cool because I've like checked off everything on my list. But I wake up in a panic right now. We got like 2 weeks, 6 days to go, and I'm pretty nervous and very excited.
it's going to be amazing for sure. You're going to do awesome.
Thanks. No
It'll be
pressure.
great. That is super cool. And you mentioned the Sundance Collab directing workshop. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into that?
I knew you were going to ask that. Okay. So when I was little, I used to sleepwalk a lot, and it's kind of morphed into sleep writing. So occasionally I'll write in my sleep, but it's nothing impressive. It's not like prose or anything. It's more like I'll shop on Amazon in my sleep. And I've done it 3 times this year. Once I woke up and found out I bought a monitor. Once I found out some film festivals contacted me, and I'd entered my short into the same film festivals again and again and again over 3 nights. And I'd applied for the Sundance Collab scholarship in my sleep, and I didn't even know about it until they contacted me the next day, because I kind of locked up their server because I used a bunch of emojis in my application. And then when I read what I wrote, I was so embarrassed. I thought I've blown any chance of having anything to do with Sundance ever, because one of the questions were like, why do you deserve this? And I said, so that I can manifest the glory of God in cinema excellence. And I read this and I was like, what have I done?
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
And then 4 months later, I got an email saying congratulations, and I was like, no way.
Wow, Sleepwalking Deborah is amazing.
Yeah, that is so
She
cool.
brings opportunities.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Yeah, getting into Sundance is so easy. Anyone can do it, even in your sleep.
There you go. Yeah, you can't argue with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Thanks.
I used to sleepwalk too, actually, which is like random, but yeah, I didn't do anything cool like that. I just like accidentally like wrote like horrible essays for my like online English course. And then one time, this is horrible, I probably shouldn't even say this, I peed in my cat litter box. That's what I did when I sleepwalked.
That's it,
yeah. I had a few sleepwalking pee accidents when I was 17. The worst of which I kind of peed on my landlord.
Oh my god.
We got wrong.
Sorry, Sam.
It's okay. No, it's okay. That's how people know that these aren't scripted.
Why am I doing any more interviews? I keep saying things I shouldn't.
That's so funny. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Debbie and Heather. um, Heather, I wanted to ask you about Coconut Meat Films and how that came to be.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of started after I graduated. I was freelancing a lot on like corporate, just corporate work, and it was such a big change after going to UNLV because UNLV, I had so much fun every day. I mean, I was working like a separate part-time job, but still, like most of every day, I like went to school and I was like having fun with my friends and like making projects. And then suddenly, once I started to like freelance, I felt like I just didn't have like a lot of time, and I wasn't making time to do like passion projects. So I was like, oh, like maybe we can make a little time for that. And so I was just trying to kind of come up for like a name for it. So whenever we did like a coconut meat project, it was always something that wasn't corporate, but something that was creative, just to kind of like fulfill like my soul for a little bit, So that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, and I guess a question for both of you: how do you balance, the creative, fulfilling stuff and uh, maybe the not so creative, fulfilling stuff? How do you find the balance between the two things?
Oh, it's for me. It's definitely difficult because it's so easy to like get a call from a client and just be like, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'm available. And then you get caught up in like making money and like paying your bills or saving more money. And so I feel like I still struggle with that, to be honest. I definitely struggle with that. I'm trying to make time for at least, it's not much, but I'm trying to at least make time for like one or two like fun projects a year that I put a lot of time into. And it's almost something that keeps a glimmer of hope, in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, like at least I can like work on that today, or, we're going to go film that in a month or something like that. So, but it's definitely a struggle, and you have to constantly check yourself being like, okay, wow, you haven't done anything creative for like 6 months. Like, what are you doing? Like you didn't get into this just to do corporate work. Like that wasn't my dream when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, but corporate work, it has its, it has its fun times as well. But it's a tricky balance that I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, I find the balance difficult, and I'm doing the opposite of you. I'm doing two or three corporate clients a year, and then doing my creative stuff. So
That's awesome.
on the one hand, I'm really really blessed because I feel that I'm very well paid for when I do my corporate work, like extremely well paid. So I only actually work maybe 2 months of the year, maybe.
Wow.
And then I spend the rest of the time doing my creative. But um, I am kind of like on the edge of poverty all the time. But it's by choice because I take all that time to do my creative stuff. So if I worked all the time, I'd be balling. But I don't. Like even my film project, Move Me No Mountain. I've been working on this full time since February.
Wow.
So that's how much effort it's taken to put it together. And like for example, next week I'm working actually editing Life is Beautiful. So I'll be one of three editors in a truck backstage putting it all together. But that one gig will keep me going for a few months. So that's kind of how I manage. And then the rest of the time I'm poor. So yeah, I just it's peanut butter jelly sandwiches and and not going out, making those sacrifices so that I can spend money on equipment and spend I spend a lot of time learning as well. I'm constantly learning. So in order to invest that time in myself, I have to make huge sacrifices. And so other friends always doing stuff, and I'm always saying, no, sorry, I can't. Because I literally can't afford to go, or I haven't had a vacation in 7 years. And that's because I've thrown myself into film. And like I said, if I chose to work more, I could easily work so much more. But and now that's kind of changing, because now I'm kind of getting more into the feature film space. That I already have one offer to direct another movie, and an offer to DP on another movie, and I just had a movie come out on Amazon that I was the colorist and VFX artist for. So I feel like I'm kind of going from that freelance couple day gigs here, couple day gigs there, to more of these kind of longer term projects that are bigger projects. So I'm in that kind of transitional phase.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's definitely the leap of faith that you have to take too. Like what you're saying, you have to like sacrifice and like put yourself in that position instead to make that movie. Otherwise, the movie's not going to get made, right?
Yeah, and I think people forget that nobody asks you to make a movie, right?
Exactly.
No one could, like who was the guy that did Batman? I think Chris Nolan. He was working on the first Batman in his garage with his brother for a year before Warner Brothers even knew about it. You know,
wow.
like, no one asked him. Like, it was only after he'd done that and then took it to Warner Brothers, and they're like, "Yeah, this is great." But he put a year of his time and effort into getting that off the ground, and that's so typical from him on down. You know, that no one asks us to make a movie, so you got to be a real self-starter, and you got to make sacrifices to make it happen.
I agree.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, a question for both of you. You're both directors. What is something that what's like the most useful thing that
Coffee.
you have on hand? Coffee? Yeah.
Oh, you can go first, Deborah, if you'd like to.
Having an amazing team is obviously the most useful thing. You know, having people around you that are strong, creative, and reliable, and as far as tools of the trade, I just built this. I'm very excited about. It's a little monitor.
Very cool rig.
With a focus wheel and a monitor and a little Wi-Fi thingy that I made out of some plumbing. So I think this is going to be really helpful as far as a physical tool. But the most helpful thing is your imagination, really, because I was speaking to a bunch of filmmakers today about how every shoot something's going to go wrong, and you have to be able to pivot. And I think the person most suited to be a director is the last to crack in a room. You know, in a room full of pressure, the last to crack, that's your director. So yeah, all those things. I mean, your team, your imagination, some good tech, all of that stuff, and lots of coffee.
And lots of coffee, definitely.
Yeah, definitely lots of coffee. Yeah, I mean, I agree with like basically everything that Deborah said, as well as like, you know, just that really good pre-production, right? That like really good pre-pro, because I've gone into projects for sure where I don't think that I did enough, and it shows, you know, versus when I did do more pre-production, you know, that shows as well. But yeah, like Deborah said, a team, like your team, it's definitely your best asset.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I loved what you said earlier, Debbie, about buddies today, your crew tomorrow.
It's so true. Like, if you go to film school in LA and then wait 20 years, some kid that was sitting next to you is now a studio boss. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really important to support everyone that's working around you, you know, where everyone's kind of at the same level. If you help the person next to you, you can all get to the next level together, you know, if you're working together. And
I have very strong feelings on that. I feel that I'm constantly reaching out to those people in the industry who have walked the path before me. And I've constantly got one hand out to them for them to help me get to where they are. But I think it's so important at the same time to constantly have one hand back to those who are coming up behind you to help them as well.
Right.
And I wish more people had that attitude in the industry.
Definitely. That's very interesting that you say that. I wanted to ask you about what are maybe your highest hopes for the film industry? Like in a perfect world, what would you like to see different in the industry?
You have thoughts on this, Heather?
To see different in the industry?
Like if you could change anything.
Oh, well, obviously more female empowerment, That would probably, I don't know if you my answer. But things are changing, so I think that is beautiful. I see so many more female filmmakers who are just amazing and just owning it, and it's inspiring because, like when I was younger, or when we were all, younger, like there wasn't a lot of female filmmakers to really like look up to. Like I remember, it's so sad, but I wrote myself a letter when I was little because like from a young age I wanted to do film. And like in this like sad little letter that I wrote myself, I was like telling myself, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make cool movies, like, but I was like, oh, I'm just gonna use my last name only because I was like, I don't want people to know that I'm a woman and that I'm a female filmmaker because then they probably won't want to watch it because all the directors I see are men, and I was like, I read that and I was like, that's really sad that like at that age I didn't recognize, and of course they were out there, but they just weren't as well known, I guess, not as like reachable for me to see, so, but yeah.
Yeah, I think representation, of course, but like Heather says, it's definitely getting better. But my biggest dream for the industry is something that I think will never happen, and that is I get really pissed off with all the predatory services that float around the movie industry, okay? And there's so many of these things. There are predatory film festivals, there are predatory managers and agents, there are predatory distributors, there are predatory, throughout the movie industry, okay, there's predatory services. And they range from companies saying, hey, give us this much money and we'll find you more money for your movie, to filmmaker days at the Cannes Film Festival where you go to that, but it's nothing to do with Cannes, but it's, or film festivals where they're like, this is a monthly film festival and if you win, you get a PDF. It's like, so what? And it's, or like I've heard stories of actors in LA who are brand new to LA and they're walking down the street and people like give them flyers for like, $800 for your headshots, and then they'll take them to some backstreet studio and take some photos with an iPhone. And all these predatory services, and it's all because unscrupulous people prey on people's hopes and dreams. And it's so easy to make a mark of someone when they're invested in their hopes and dreams. And it's so easy to take advantage of that bad people do. And that's why I don't think it will ever go away, because Hollywood as an industry, not a place, will always attract hopes and dreams. It'll always attract dreamers. And so as long as you have all these dreamers being fed into this machine, you'll always be these people on the outside of the machine trying to take advantage of that. And so I wish one day the industry would lose all the predatory bullshit and just get, dense business.
Yeah.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like a lot of people, including myself, don't really know about that. And for you to put that in the light is really important, because that can help prevent someone from falling into that trap,
Well, so many predatory. I mean, there's you look at how many festivals there are, how many agents there are, managers or lawyers, or distributors. That's another big one. There's so many distributors, and they can be, I mean, there's good distributors as well, right? But there's so many bad distributors because it's one place where it's so easy to be creative on the accounting and keep all the numbers hush-hush. and there's so many tricks and things that distributors can do to rip you off. Like there's like literally lists of all the different ways that a distributor can rip you off. That I think the industry is rife with all these kind of predatory services. And I've been victim to them a few times. Like, I think I went, like 9 years ago, I went to some big pitch fest in LA where it's like speed dating, and you go to a table and you got your one sheets and you can pitch an industry professional your ideas for like 3 minutes, and then you go to the next table. And then years later, I found out that it's the intern to the intern to the intern of the company.
Oh,
Like it's not it's not the owner of the company. It's not an agent of the company. It's some intern's assistant that that company committed to be at this event, and they can't be bothered because it's on the weekend. So they send the intern's assistant, and the intern assistant's going to go because they want to get ahead in the industry. And so you're just wasting your breath. So there's so many predatory services like this, and I won't keep going on about it.
It's very interesting, though. It's good to talk about.
Yeah, and I know you said that you don't think that it'll ever end, and it probably won't, because in the end there's always bad people. There's always people that will try and take advantage of other people. But I think a way that we can maybe lessen it is by talking about it, and by making people more aware. And because I think, at least in my experience, like after I graduated college and started freelancing, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about like setting a rate or how to sign a contract or anything like that. So it's really easy to get taken advantage of when you're still learning. So I think maybe just by talking to people with more experience, like in this case, that's a way that we can help maybe lessen I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Yeah, because for a long time I was too afraid to raise my rate. I was like, oh, they're not going to want to hire me anymore and all these things. But I was like super busy, but I wasn't making, necessarily money I wanted to be making. And then like as soon as I started just like raising my rates, like clients would say yes, and I was like, really? Like, oh, like it's like that whole like self-worth thing. And then the clients that you don't want to mess with, there's the ones who are going to say no. So I feel like that is really important, because oftentimes like when you graduate, I did the same thing like you, and obviously you need the experience and stuff like that, but you find yourself like you set a rate and you forget to sometimes like raise them as well. As you gain knowledge and experience, like an increase comes with that.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, it was only a couple of years ago when I learned this trick. When a client says, so how much is it going to cost? My answer is, well, what's your budget? And they'll throw a number out. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's so much more than I would have said. And sometimes it's a lot lower than what I would have said. But I can always scale my ideas up or down. And I tell my clients, you tell me what your budget is. Because if you tell me it's 10 million, then I can give you Marvel quality. If you tell me that it's $10, I can draw on a napkin for you. I can scale up or scale down. But you tell me what you had in mind, because every client starts off with a number in mind, right? When they start a project, they've got X amount earmarked for it. So, when I discovered that little trick of, so what's your budget? I started making a lot more money.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to use that one next time.
Yeah.
Heather, I wanted to ask you about Razzle My Berries. How did that come about? Was that one of the, the couple creative projects a year that you are kind of doing?
Yeah. So that project was kind of funny. So Drew Marvick wanted to do, it was like 12 Days of Christmas, 12 Deaths of Christmas. And so that's originally what it was kind of a part of. And so he asked each of us to basically make something. And I got 8 Maids of Milking. And so, we're thinking about milk and like I just thought, oh, it'd be so fun to do like a weird like 1950s beauty store. And it was written by, it was me, my best friend, Leslie Gomez, and Andrea Walter. Well, actually, Andrea Walter wrote it. She was the writer. And then me and Leslie were more so the, help develop the story. But yeah, I don't know. Oftentimes me and Leslie will just be like sitting down, like kind of like what Deborah said, like you don't really know where the idea came from, but just kind of like, you just start bouncing things off of each other. And we were joking, obviously, about the milk, and we, we're like, oh, what if it was like a weird narwhal creature? And it just kind of went down like a weird rabbit hole, like one late night kind of thing, But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We definitely like got lucky with locations for that, because we did not have a budget. I mean, like all of us most of the time don't have a lot of good budgets, but yeah, we got lucky. Atomic Style Lounge downtown, they let us shoot there, so that was a big lifesaver.
It's funny you mentioned Drew Marvick, because he's actually one of the other 6 filmmakers on the Lucky Sevens.
Oh, that's awesome! Very cool. Very cool. I love Drew. He's amazing.
I haven't met him, but I love his brand.
Yeah. You will love him so much. He's a very amazing human.
That's awesome. And small world,
Yeah, especially Las Vegas film community, right?
Well, the whole film industry is just, I feel like any industry is, once you get to a certain point in any industry, everyone knows everyone.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
So, speaking of the industry, are there any filmmakers that you have yet to, but you would love to collaborate with?
Deborah.
Oh, thanks, Heather.
But really, your stuff is amazing. When we were just watching those videos, like the visual effects and everything with the little house in the snow, I lost my mind. I was like, that's beautiful. You're so talented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know. Likewise, I was watching your stuff and it looks beautiful. So, yeah, I'd love to collaborate. We definitely got to chat.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So, some other local filmmakers that I think are very, very, very strong. Omi Blue, he's a cinematographer. We've been friends for a very long time, and I've been trying to convince him to work with me for like 10 years, and I don't know why. I think he's always very busy, and the timing just hasn't worked out, but I've wanted to work with him for a long time. And then also recently, I don't know this guy, but I know his work. I think it's Danny Chandia, and his work is beautiful, and I haven't met him yet. I did actually reach out to him 6 months ago, and I said, I'd love to chat with you and work with you, and he was like, well, I'm very busy right now, so hit me up in a few months. So I was like, oh, okay. So hopefully in time.
Yeah, hopefully in time.
Sometimes it's like that. It's all about timing, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely. That's very funny that you mentioned Danny. He was one of our featured artists in our last edition.
That's how I became aware of him, and I was stunned by how quality his work is. And I feel that there's so many people in this field, and very few truly shine. And his work definitely caught my eye.
Is that Danny from Desert Cactus?
Yes.
Films? Yeah, I was actually going to talk about him too. Their work is so beautiful. And the fact that when I found out how they made their music videos, my mind was blown. They just, used the smallest, blue screen, and they just showed you all it takes is true creativity, and that's really all you need. You don't need all these crazy tools, I mean, they help, don't get me wrong, but it's so beautiful and amazing to see someone do so much with such a small space, and just his imagination, running wild.
Truly
talented
filmmaker.
Sam, if you could put a good word in for Heather,
Danny, if you're watching this, you have potential collaborators. That is awesome. So, question for you both. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
For me, I guess it would be to kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, but to be a little bit more fearless and not be afraid, of what what others may think, or to what Deborah was saying earlier too. Like if someone doesn't like your idea, or they kind of shut it down, whether it's like a studio person or whatever, to just believe in yourself and believe in your vision and your idea. But yeah.
I think for me it would be maybe believe in myself more as a writer and write more. And also I think maybe make the leap from shorts to features sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't see how it would have been possible, but I don't think it's even possible now, and I'm doing it, so that's no excuse. I think I should have definitely, because there's a real distinctive difference between being a short film filmmaker and a feature film filmmaker, right? It's almost like a graduation thing. Like once you've done it, it's a status thing, and the next film supposedly is a lot easier and a lot easier to fund, and it's a big learning curve. And for years I've been saying I'm a film director, but I've never directed a film.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I'd made the leap maybe 5 years earlier, rather than waiting till this year. But I don't know if I would have been capable, but I would have figured it out.
That's really good advice, because I feel like I'm struggling with something similar right now, because I keep making short films, and we were talking about doing. What's that?
How many shorts have you done?
Oh gosh, I mean, as a director, I've only done maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I've done 5 or 6, and then I've done maybe 4 music videos. But I do struggle a lot. I keep saying oh, I'm gonna make one more short film, and then I'm gonna make a feature, instead of I know that I'm afraid to take that leap of faith, and because you're right, it's a whole different animal, Yeah. So that's really good advice, and I felt that when you said it. I was maybe I need to try to go bigger,
It's definitely a leap of faith, and it's very scary. But
Yes.
and when I was raising the money, it was awful at the beginning. First money in is so hard, but once it got to about $40,000 or $50,000, half the budget, I could see how the dominoes would fall, and it started to feel very differently. But for me, I've made 9 shorts. I've directed about 50 TV commercials.
Wow.
Done a couple music videos, including one for Snoop Dogg, and animation for Walmart, and I've colored a feature, and I've been a camera girl for a feature, and I've done VFX for a feature. So it's I gotta make the leap.
You were it's time.
It's time.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yes, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see your movie.
If you ever want help, Heather, in figuring out how to make that leap, I'd love to, share my experience with you.
I would love that. Thank you. Fun. Yes, that would be very, very valuable. Thank you.
Of course.
And just a few more questions. We're going to start wrapping it up pretty soon. We're coming up on the 10-minute mark. So you both have worked as directors and editors. Does it feel different when you're editing someone else's short or commercial or anything versus your own? Do you find yourself being maybe more critical when you're editing your own stuff?
I find it very hard to edit other people's stuff because I'm so opinionated and I have such a strong vision So I'm like, this is the edit. And they're like, well, here are the notes. I'm like, what are you talking about, notes? You the edit. What are these notes? Cut them away. So I think I'm a difficult freelance editor for, like, I have to bite my lip and be like, okay, they're paying the bills, you know, just do what they ask, whether you agree or not. So yeah, that's me with editing.
I agree with you. I think it is definitely difficult because it's almost like the director-editor relationship is such almost like a marriage. Like it's really hard to find like the perfect combination, that works well. And yeah, like what Deborah was saying, it can get a little bit difficult because if you have like a director mindset as well, you have to remind yourself that this is their project, right? And not my project. And sometimes that is hard to do. And you have to like keep reminding yourself, or if they want to make a change and you don't like it, obviously, if you want to discuss it with them, that's always good. But definitely, yeah, you have to kind of partially kick out the director side of you, which is like, sometimes it's hard to do.
I feel like it's you have to partially disengage from caring.
Yes, it's a great way of saying it.
You have to say, I don't care. I'm putting this together and I don't really care about it, which sounds awful. Like, I hope my clients earmuffs. I care about all your work. But it's almost a little bit like that. And then the other weird thing is, like, as a writer, director, editor, I'm crucially aware that sometimes what isn't so great in the writing, I can fix in the edit. And also same when I'm shooting, because I'm a superstar VFX editor and editor, I know that as I'm also a DP, but I know like some DPs will spend forever trying to get the shot just perfect, right? Whereas I know what the bare minimum I have to do in the frame is for me to be able to polish it up in post. So it's an interesting process because I'm constantly thinking about all three. Like if I'm writing a scene that's going to get intercut, I might not write it intercut, going from this scene to that scene to this scene, because I just know I'm just going to intercut it in the edit. So it's definitely like playing three-dimensional chess when you're involved at each stage of the process.
That's so interesting too that you do visual effects because Brandon Christensen, he's an awesome, amazing. And he does visual effects as well and editing as well. And on set, I've seen him sometimes where the frame looks a certain way, but he knows that he can do something to it or fix it. So it helps to understand what your tools are. So when you have that brain to know like the editing process and the visual effects process, it's so helpful because then you know what you can do, so I think that's so cool. And it's almost like sometimes back to like the freelancing thing, like if you're editing something like a short film or something for a director, and like let's say they have like zero experience editing, sometimes that does make the process a little more difficult because they might not understand something, or maybe they like missed something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's so cool to have all of those tools in your head, like as a director, like visual effects, all those things, because you see the world differently. You're like, I can fix that in post.
Right. But the flip side to what you're saying about working with a less experienced director that doesn't know what they can achieve in post, the flip side to that is they're not going to say, "Oh, can you just completely change the background?"
Yeah.
Like, I can, but I wish you wouldn't ask me that because that's like books of work. So that's the flip side. So
yeah, definitely.
That's funny. We have one question from the audience that I'd like to ask you. They are wondering how you developed your style as a director, editor, and DP, if you feel like those are similar to each other in those roles or different, if you can talk a little bit about your style.
So my it's real easy with my style, and this has kind of been my style my whole life because I've always been involved in the arts and digital arts and music and pixels and websites and graphics and all that stuff. And I've always tried to copy or emulate the things that inspired me, and never quite got it right. And then people are like, wow, that's so original. And it's like, well, it's not. I'm trying to copy something, but I didn't quite get it right. Had I got it right, people wouldn't have said. People would have said, well, that's not original because I can see that as a copy. But because it was always like a kind of bad attempt at a facsimile, it created my own style.
That's awesome. That's very interesting. I feel like as far as like inspiration goes, probably a lot of it's from Sailor Moon. Just watching it when I was younger. Sailor Moon's amazing, like all of the colors and the aesthetics, but at the same time they're fighting these like really like crazy monsters, and so I feel like that definitely is like kind of what went into my head as a little kid for that, because I love color so much.
That's funny that you say that, because I feel like I can see that in your work now, Heather. I'll just always think of like Sailor Moon, like the juxtaposition of like really pretty things and then like monsters and stuff.
Yeah, that's funny.
Really funny. Okay, so I'm being told to wrap it up for now, but it has been such a pleasure talking with both of you tonight. I can't thank you guys enough for sharing your wisdom and your talent and your time. So thank you so much for doing this Q&A with us.
Thank you. It's been such a blessing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's been really great, and I'm so excited to meet you both and hopefully continue this conversation on back channels.
Yes,
Definitely.
I agree. I'm so happy that I met both of you guys. You guys are both so amazing and talented.
Thank you. It's a pleasure just being here with you guys.
Yay, feeling the love. Group hug.
Yes, group hug. So before I do our outro, I have one last speed round question for you both that we like to ask at the end of all of our Q&As. Do you prefer Shrek 1 or Shrek 2?
Shrek 1.
Okay.
1?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I'm pro Shrek 1. That is my favorite also. So, thank you.
For sure.
Thank you
1
for
all the way.
Anecdotal evidence that I'm right.
You're right. Everyone else is wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Glad we got that out of the way. Let me just do the little outro and then we'll be out of here. So that concludes our Q&A for tonight. Sorry, I was reading the wrong part of my script. So that wraps up our session 1 of featured artist Q&As. Thank you both so much for being here and taking the time to chat with me. We really, really appreciate it. And if you want to check out both of these artists more, you can check out our website, eccentricartists.space, and find out all kinds of stuff about their career and all the great things that they've made. And then before we go, I'd like to talk about some events that Eccentric Artists has coming up. We have our film club debate version for the first time. And the debate is Shrek 1 versus Shrek 2. So if you guys feel strongly, as all of us do here, please join us on Saturday, September 18th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. We will be debating Shrek 1 versus Shrek 2. And then...
it's an important topic.
Yes, important topic, definitely. And then our big event coming up is our Shameless Plug Art Festival, which is taking place on Saturday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. And it is at Ferguson's downtown here in Vegas. So if either of you are able to make it, we would love to see you there.
I'll be shooting my movie, unfortunately. I wish I could.
It's okay.
Fortunately, yeah.
Yes, fortunately. But we would love to see you guys there, and thank you again so much for joining us. And our session 2 of Q&As will be happening later this month. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.